The arena shook with sound. A massive alien predator stepped forward, its armored feet slamming against the steel floor with the rhythm of a war drum. The walls of the galactic arena seemed to vibrate with every impact. When it finally raised its head, the creature unleashed a roar so deep and powerful that it rattled through the bones of every spectator. The roar wasn't just noise, it was a weapon, a declaration, promise of what was about to happen. The alien crowd, filling every seat of the towering Colosseum, cheered with violent excitement. To them, this was entertainment. This was dominance made visible. And as the echoes of the Predator's roar rolled across the chamber, the crowd expected the same thing they had seen countless times before. Prey trembling, prey breaking, prey begging. But this time, the prey did not tremble. She stood in the center of the arena, a human. Commander Elara Voss of Earth. Her hair was tied back, her uniform scuffed from the long voyage to this alien sector. Her face was pale under the bright white lights, but her eyes were steady fixed on the beast. In front of her, the Predator's roar washed over her like a tidal wave, and then something happened that no alien in that audience had ever witnessed before. Elara smirked. The noise of the crowd faltered. Thousands of alien throats went silent all at once. The sound of confusion rippled through them. What kind of creature would smirk at a predator's roar? Predators were feared across the galaxy. Their roars had broken warriors. Presence had crushed entire species into submission. Yet this human, this fragile thing from an unknown backwater world, dared to look directly into the beast's glowing yellow eyes and answer its roar with nothing but a smile. It wasn't a smile of arrogance. It wasn't the grin of madness. It was colder than that. Smirk. A small curve of the lips that carried with it an unspoken challenge. Is that all you've got? The Predator blinked. For the first time in the history of the arena, the Predator's roar failed to break its opponent. This was not just a fight. This was not just a performance for the crowd. This was the trial of species. Every race that entered the galactic community was forced into this. Ritual and ancient custom where their strongest would be tested in combat against the predators of the void. The predators were the measure of worth, fail, and your species was dismissed, ignored, or worse, enslaved, and humanity. Humanity had been summoned as prey. The Galactic Council believed Earth's people were fragile, emotional, unworthy of standing as equals. The arena was supposed to prove that belief. One human against a predator was never meant to be a contest. It was supposed to be a warning to the rest of humanity. Know your place. But Commander Elara Voss had no intention of bowing. The predator stepped closer. Its scales were black like iron, its frame towering over her. It moved with a weight that bent the floor beneath it. Its mouth split open, rows of teeth gleaming under the arena lights. Saliva dripped to the steel, sizzling where it landed. It was a nightmare made flesh. But Elara didn't move. Her heart was pounding. Yes, she could feel every beat slamming in her chest, but her eyes never left the beast. She let her smirk linger. Just enough to sting. Just enough to whisper a message that words could never deliver. I am not afraid of you. The alien crowd shifted uneasily. This wasn't right. No prey behaved this way. No prey could behave this way. Fear was instinct. Fear was survival. And yet this human had none of it. Somewhere high in the council box, alien leaders leaned forward, their expressions unreadable. They had expected the usual: the human would break, the predator would kill, and the galaxy would move on. But already, something was different. Already the human had done the impossible. She had made the predator hesitate. Elara remembered Earth. She remembered the wars, the famines, the endless struggles humanity had clawed through to survive. She remembered history books filled with predators of another kind, armies, empires, monsters in human skin. Humanity had stood against all of it, bleeding but never bowing. Compared to that, one more predator was just another chapter. The predator circled her now, its tail scraping against the floor with the sound of metal on stone. Its golden eyes narrowed. This wasn't prey. Prey ran. Prey screamed. Prey begged. with this creature in front of it? This creature was something else. The predator roared again, louder this time, pouring every ounce of fury into the sound. The shockwave of its voice rippled the dust across the arena floor. Several alien spectators in the front rows flinched, back from the sheer force of the roar. But not Elara. Her smirk widened. Just slightly, the crowd gasped. The predator's fury faltered. This had never happened before. The roar was supposed to end resistance before the fight even began. But somehow, the roar had failed. The predator realized the truth. This fight would not be easy. This fight would not be certain. And somewhere deep inside its savage mind, a flicker of something unfamiliar stirred. Doubt? The announcer's voice boomed across the arena, struggling to regain control of the spectacle. Let the trial. The crowd erupted again. But this time it was different. Their cheers carried tension. Their excitement carried confusion. Nobody knew what would happen next. The predator lowered itself, claws extended, muscles tensed for the kill. Its breath came in steaming waves, the scent of blood hanging thick in the air. It waited for her to flinch, to stumble, to give away the weakness that prey always gave. But Elara Voss didn't move. She stood tall, unbroken, her cold smirk cutting. Deeper than any blade, the predator lunged, and humanity's trial truly began. The predator had lunged. The crowd had screamed, and yet she was still alive. Commander Elara Voss stood firm at the center of the arena, her boots planted against the trembling steel floor. The predator's claws scraped just inches from her chest as she shifted at the last possible second, its strike missing by the narrowest of margins. The beast spun, snarling, confused that prey could move so late, so deliberately. Without panic, the human did not run. She did not flinch. She smirked again, and in that moment, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. All across the arena, thousands of alien eyes were locked on her. This wasn't how the trial of species was supposed to go. Predators were feared, respected, worshipped. Their roars had ended wars. Their strikes had ended civilizations. But here was a human fragile, small, breakable, looking into the face of one of the galaxy's apex predators and daring to mock it with nothing but a smile. What kind of creature does that? Whispered one alien observer. Prey doesn't smirk at death, hissed another. And up in the council's high chamber, alien leaders leaned forward in silence. The trial, which had always been a predictable show of dominance, was suddenly dangerous. It was unpredictable. The smirk had changed everything. The predator circled again, slower this time. Its instincts screamed at it to attack, to kill, to end this insult before it grew. But something was wrong. Its prey wasn't acting like prey. It was acting like a predator, and deep inside its primal mind, the beast felt something it had never known before, a sliver of unease. The crowd sensed it too, and that fear, the idea that the predator could feel doubt, was more terrifying than the beast itself. Long ago, when the galaxy's first empires discovered one another, chaos reigned. Civilizations clashed. Wars nearly burned entire sectors. To stop the endless bloodshed, the Galactic Council created the Trial of Species, a ritual of combat. The rules were simple. When a new species entered the galactic stage, they would be judged by strength. Single chosen warrior would face a predator in the arena. Not just any predator, but one bred for dominance. Honed by centuries of selective survival. Wind, and the species earned respect. Lose. And the species was marked forever as prey. The arena was a stage 4 destiny. And today, humanity's destiny. Hung by a thread, the first time humans sent a message into galactic space, they thought they had found allies. The council had responded with politeness, but behind closed doors, whispers spread fast. Emotional, chaotic, unpredictable, weak. To the older, colder civilizations, humanity was nothing but fragile mammals from a blue world, easy to manipulate, easy to dismiss, until one voice rose in Earth's defense. Elara Voss, a commander, a soldier, and above all, a survivor. Volunteered for the trial not just to prove herself, but to prove all of humanity. and now in the arena. The galaxy was watching her rewrite their judgment with every heartbeat. The predator lunged again, but this time slower, more measured. Its talons scraped sparks from the steel floor. Its glowing eyes tracked her every movement. Elara stepped sideways, calm as a dancer, her smirk never fading. The beast snarled, frustrated. Prey was supposed to panic, to scatter, to give itself away. But the human moved with precision, like she had studied it, like she had prepared. The crowd roared their confusion. Some shouted for the predator to kill her quickly. Stunned silence. And above it all, Elara spoke. Her voice was soft, but it carried. "That roar of yours," she said, "was that supposed to scare me?" The words echoed like thunder. Every alien throat went silent. Predators were not mocked. Predators were not challenged. And yet, this small human had just spoken words no one dared to utter. The predator itself froze, unsure whether to strike or to roar again. Its chest heaved with fury, its claws dug into the steel. But it did not attack. Not yet, because for the first time in its life, it wasn't certain it could win. In the council's chamber above the arena, whispers grew. She's different. She's reckless. She's dangerous. Some counselors frowned in anger. Others narrowed their eyes in calculation. Humanity was supposed to be easy to place, fragile prey to be ignored. But this was unexpected. If a single human could stand against a predator, what would 1,000 humans do? What would 1,000,000? For the first time, the council didn't laugh at the thought of humans. They feared it. The predator's tail lashed against the floor. His chest rumbled with a growl so deep it shook dust from the ceiling. It was humiliated. No prey had ever done this before, but even as it prepared for another strike, a strange thought lingered in its mind. The smirk, the eyes, the steady, unbroken defiance. This wasn't prey. This was an equal inside. Her heart was hammering like a drum. She knew she was seconds from death. She knew one wrong move could mean the end. But fear was a luxury she had no time for. She thought of Earth, of her people, of humanity's history filled with struggle and survival. Her smirk wasn't for the predator. It was for them. Every moment she stood unbroken in that arena was a message. Humanity bows to no one. The predator lowered itself once more, ready to strike with full force. The crowd leaned forward, sensing the moment of truth, but Elara smirked. Again, colder this time, sharper, and in that silence, in that impossible defiance, the galaxy realized something it had never known before. Prey was no longer prey. The fight was only beginning. The steel gates groaned open from the shadows. More predators stepped into the arena. Their massive forms emerged one by one, their armored hides gleaming under the floodlights. Each of them radiated raw power, their eyes burning gold, their roars shaking the air like rolling thunder. The crowd erupted into a frenzy. This wasn't supposed to be one predator against the human. No, this was a gauntlet. Humanity's trial had only begun, and Elara Voss was outnumbered. The first predator had failed to break her. Its roar had been met with a smirk, its fury. With defiance, the alien audience had already witnessed the impossible. But now, as more predators entered the arena, the question spread like fire through the stands. Could one human stand against many? The spectators pressed forward, their voices a storm of disbelief and hunger. They wanted blood. They wanted to see the strange little mammal crushed under the weight of true power. And yet, as the predators closed in, Elara didn't run. She simply turned her head, studying them, one by one, her eyes sharp, her smirk returning. That smirk was more dangerous than any weapon, because it whispered something the predators had never heard before. I've seen worse. This arena was legendary across the stars. Thousands of species had been tested here, their champions thrown against predators to prove their worth. Some had fought bravely before they fell. Others had begged for mercy. But no one, not in all recorded history, had smirked. Fear was the currency of the arena. The predators thrived on it. But here, standing in the middle of a circle of death, Commander Elara Voss projected the one thing that broke their advantage. Defiance? One predator lunged. Its claws slashed the air, aimed to tear her in two. The crowd gasped. This was the kill strike. But Elara didn't meet the blow with panic. She ducked low, sliding across the steel floor as sparks flew around her. The predator's claws smashed into the ground, carving deep trenches where she had stood. Before the beast could recover, Elara moved again, quick, precise, controlled, not pre-tactician. The crowd roared in shock. She was unarmed, but she wasn't fighting like prey. She was fighting like a predator of her own kind, patient, calculating, ruthless. The Council had forbidden humans from bringing technology or weapons into the arena. To them, this was supposed to be a test of biology, of instinct. And by that measure, humanity was doomed. But Elara had studied the predators. She had watched recordings of their hunts. She had learned their rhythm. Her weapon wasn't a blade, it was her mind. Every step she took, every dodge, every smirk, it wasn't random. It was deliberate. She was forcing the predators to react, to expose their flaws, to fight her game instead of theirs. And the more she moved, the more the predators hesitated. For the first time, the hunters were being hunted. Impossible. One alien gasped. She should be dead already. Another hissed. Why isn't she afraid? Fear was expected. Fear was natural. Fear was what prey did. But this human had no fear. And slowly, horribly, the crowd began to realize what that meant. If prey had no fear, then prey could not be controlled. Two predators charged at once, their claws raking the air. Elara sidestepped one, pivoted, and used its own momentum to slam it into the other. The two beasts collided, snarling, their bodies crashing against the arena wall. Dust and sparks flew. The crowd gasped. Elara smirked again, standing calmly between them. She hadn't landed a single blow. She didn't need to. She was turning their strength against them, and the predators' apex hunters of the galaxy had no idea how to respond. Far above in the council chamber, alien leaders whispered in uneasy tones. They had dismissed humanity as fragile. But here, they saw something different. They saw the story of Earth itself reflected in Elara's every move. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and endless predators of their own world. They weren't the strongest, weren't the fastest, but they were the most stubborn. Every predator that had ever tried to wipe out humanity had failed. And now, in this arena, that legacy was alive. One predator roared again, louder than before, its voice booming across the arena. But this time, the crowd didn't cheer, because the roar sounded hollow. It sounded like desperation. And Elara, standing with her arms folded and her smirk colder than steel, tilted her head and whispered just loud enough for the cameras to catch it. Still not scary. The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time in galactic history, predators were afraid. The counselors shifted in their seats, their expressions dark. She's not just surviving, one muttered. She's winning, another said grimly. If humanity could do this, with one representative, what would happen when the rest of their species arrived? The trial was meant to put humans in their place. Instead, it was making them dangerous. The predators regrouped, their eyes glowing brighter, their bodies tensing for a coordinated strike. The ground trembled as they surrounded her, 4 of them now closing in, jaws dripping, claws raised. The crowd rose to their feet, the air thick with tension, but Elara didn't back away. Her smirk never faded, and as the predators prepared to strike together, she whispered again words that every microphone in the arena carried to every corner of the galaxy. Your mistake. I was thinking humans don't bite back. The predators lunged. The arena erupted in humanity's trial. Entered a new chapter. The arena floor shook under the weight of predators. 4 of them circled now, their claws dragging long lines of sparks into the steel. Her golden eyes glowed. In the dust and light, their tails whipping like whips of fire. The sound of their growls merged into one long, thunderous rumble that rattled the air. The crowd had never seen this before. The trial was designed to be a spectacle, but never had predators hunted in unison. 1 was enough to crush a challenger. 2 was more than sport, but 4. This wasn't a trial, this was an execution. And yet, the human didn't move. The predators advanced as one, their claws flexed, their teeth gleamed, their shadows swallowed the lone figure standing at the center. To the audience, this was the end. No prey could survive this. No creature could stand against predators working together. But Commander Elara Voss, Smirk. It was subtle, just a small lift of the corner of her mouth. But in that silence, broken only by the heavy growl of predators, it was louder than any roar. Predator meets prey, this time. The predators regrouped again, their movements slower, their fury tainted with hesitation. Their roars no longer echoed as commands of dominance, but as attempts to silence their own growing fear, and in the middle of them, unbroken, unarmed, untouched, stood Commander Elara Voss, her smirk returned, sharper than ever, and with it, a whisper that carried across the arena. "You're not predators anymore." The crowd froze. The predators froze. And as the beast circled one last time, the galaxy realized a truth it had never wanted to admit. The hunters were now the hunted. The predators regrouped again, their movements slower, their fury tainted with hesitation. Their roars no longer echoed as commands of dominance, but as attempts to silence their own growing fear. And in the middle of them, unbroken, unarmed, untouched, stood Commander Elara Voss. Her smirk returned, sharper than ever, and with it, a whisper that carried across the arena. "You're not predators anymore." The crowd froze. The predators froze. And as the beast circled one last time, the galaxy realized a truth it had never wanted to admit. The hunters were now the hunted. The predators circled. Their claws dragged deep grooves into the steel floor, their golden eyes flickering with frustration. Each breath came as a low growl, but it was not the growl of hunger anymore. It was the growl of uncertainty. And in the center of the arena stood Commander Elara Voss, silent, unbroken. Her smirk lingered like a blade across their pride. The crowd had expected a slaughter. They had expected the human to be crushed within moments. But instead, they were watching something no alien mind had ever conceived of before. The predators weren't breaking her. She was breaking them. The arena was built to echo roars and screams. But now it echoed something far more terrifying. Silence. Tens of thousands of alien voices were muted, as if no one dared to breathe. The council chambers were still. Even the predators' creatures, bred for violence, for dominance, for fear, hesitated. They had never feared prey before, but they feared her, and the galaxy was being forced to ask a question. If humans were not prey? Lara's eyes narrowed as the predators circled. Her mind flickered back not to military training, not to advanced weapons, but to stories her grandmother told her when she was a child. Stories of wolves in the forest, of lions on the plains, crocodiles in the rivers. Humans had been hunted. Before they had been small, weak, fragile. But they had learned fire. They had built spears. They had painted their defiance on cave walls. Generation after generation. Humans had faced predators that should have destroyed them. But humanity endured. And now, in a galactic arena light years away from Earth, Lara embodied that history. She was every ancestor who had ever stood against impossible odds. She was the defiance of humanity itself. One predator, larger than the end, roared so loud the steel walls shook. It lunged forward, claws spread wide, jaws open to crush the human. The crowd gasped. This was it. Surely this was the end. But Elara didn't move. She stood her ground, smirking as the beast thundered. Closer, and then, with impossible timing, she shifted a single step. The predator's claws missed her by inches. Its jaws slammed shut on empty air, and Elara whispered calm and sharp, closer. Try harder. The predator's strike had missed. Not because it was weak, but because Elara refused to give it the satisfaction of fear. Whispers spread through the alien audience like wildfire. She taunts them. She should be dead. No prey stands against predators. The humans weren't like any prey they knew. For the first time in galactic history, the predators were not the ones controlling the arena. They were being controlled by a smirking human who dared to defy them. In the high chamber, the council shifted nervously. "This cannot continue," one counselor hissed. "The audience sees it." The predators falter. "This human, she is rewriting the order of things," another countered, his voice grim. "And if we silence it now, the galaxy will ask why. They will ask how one human did what no other has done. The idea is already out there. Humanity is already dangerous." The counselors stared down at the lone human below. They had thought this trial would prove humanity's weakness. Instead, it was revealing a truth they had desperately wanted to deny. The predators attacked again, this time in unison. 4 sets of claws swiped from 4 directions. The crowd roared in anticipation of blood. But Elara dropped low, rolled between them, and came up standing, untouched. Her smirk widened, and then she laughed. It was not a laugh of madness. It was not a laugh of arrogance. It was a laugh of freedom. The sound echoed across the arena, cutting deeper than any blade. The predators froze. No prey laughed in the face of death, but humans did, Elara. Remembered against soldiers in the trenches laughing through gunfire. Firefighters cracking jokes while smoke choked the air. Miners singing songs in the dark after cave dash-ins. It wasn't denial. It wasn't ignorance. It was defiance. Humanity had always laughed at the edge of extinction, and now that same laughter echoed in the predator's ears, shaking instincts that had never been shaken before. One predator snarled. But instead of lunging, it stepped back. The crowd gasped. Predators didn't retreat. Predators didn't step away. But the beast's golden eyes flickered with confusion, and something dangerously close to submission. Elara tilted her head, smirking sharper than ever. "Afraid?" she asked softly. The predator's muscles twitched, its claws lowered ever so slightly, and the crowd erupted into chaos. Never in recorded history had predators backed down in the arena. Never had they shown hesitation. Never had they been made to look like prey. And yet here it was. A human had done it. The audience screamed, some in rage, some in awe, some in pure terror. The galaxy's order had cracked. Predators were no longer unchallenged. Humans were no longer beneath them. Elara smirked, her boots steady on the steel floor. The predators shifted uneasily, growls uncertain. Their once unshakable dominance crumbling before the eyes of thousands. The council sat frozen. Knowing what this meant, Elara's voice cut through the arena like a blade. "You call yourselves predators, but I see prey." The silence that followed was more terrifying than any roar. For in that silence, the galaxy realized, humanity was not just defiant. Humanity was dangerous, and Commander Elara Voss had just proven it. The air burned with silence. Every alien in the colossal arena leaned forward, their breaths caught, their eyes fixed on the center of the steel floor. The predators had hesitated. They had circled, attacked, and failed. Now they were cornered, not by weapons, not by power, but by a human's smirk. Commander Elara Voss stood tall, her arms loose at her sides, her expression cold and defiant. Her smirk hadn't faded, it had grown sharper with every failed strike. The predators had roared 100 times already, but none of those roars had shaken her. The crowd, desperate for blood, grew restless. They had never seen predators falter. They had never seen them uncertain. And so, at last, the largest predator stepped forward. Its body was a mountain of scaled muscle, its claws the length of swords, its fangs dripping venom onto the floor. Its golden eyes blazed with fury and shame. This was its last chance. This was the final roar. And if it failed, the entire galaxy would never look at predators the same way again. The predator inhaled, chest expanding until the steel beneath it rattled. Then it roared. The sound was not just noise, it was a weapon. The very air shook, vibrating through bone and blood. The roar shattered panels on the arena walls. Aliens in the stands clutched their ears, trembling under the sonic assault. This was not a roar to intimidate. It was a roar designed to destroy. The predators had always believed this roar was unstoppable. No prey could endure it. But Elara did not fall. She did not cover her ears. She did not even blink. Instead, she smirked wider, her lips curling into cold defiance. She tilted her head ever so slightly, as if amused, and in the deafening storm of sound, she whispered words only the predator could hear. "Is that all?" The roar finally ended. Echoing through the arena like thunder fading in the distance, the silence that followed was worse. Tens of thousands of aliens stared, stunned. The predator panted, its massive body trembling with the effort of unleashing its ultimate weapon. And yet the humans still stood. No prey had ever survived such a roar. But Commander Elara Voss stood untouched, calm, unbroken, and still smirking. She mocks him," whispered one alien in disbelief. "No prey should be alive," muttered another. "What are humans?" The predator's pride shattered. It slammed forward, claws tearing gouges into the steel, jaws snapping wide. With the full force of its fury, every ounce of muscle, speed, and savagery focused on the fragile human, the audience gasped. This was not a fight anymore. This was annihilation. But Elara didn't run. She didn't scream. She stepped forward. At the very last instant, she shifted just enough to avoid the killing blow. The predator's massive body crashed past her, slamming into the wall with a thunderous impact that shook the arena. Dust and sparks filled the air. And when it cleared, Elara was still standing, her boots steady, her arms relaxed, her smirk sharper than ever. The predator had failed. For the first time in history. The predator's greatest weapon had been turned against them. Their roar, once unstoppable, been broken not by technology, not by power, but by a human's will. The audience trembled. Some aliens cheered in disbelief. Others sat frozen, their entire worldview cracking apart before their eyes. Predators could fail, humans could endure, and in that realization, the galaxy saw something far more terrifying than any roar. They saw humanity's defiance. High above in the council chambers, alien leaders argued furiously. "This cannot be allowed to continue," one shouted. "The crowd has seen too much," another hissed. "Humanity must be contained." But one counselor, silent until now, leaned forward with cold eyes. "You fools," he said. "Do you not see? It is already too late. The galaxy has witnessed it. Fear itself does not work on humans. That is why they are dangerous." The chamber fell silent, for they all knew. It was true. The predator staggered back, its golden eyes wide, its claws trembling. It had used its greatest weapon, and it had failed. It roared against smaller, weaker, desperate. But the sound no longer carried power. The crowd no longer feared it, and worse. The predator no longer believed in its own dominance. It stared at the human who had broken it not with violence, not with weapons, with silence and a smirk. And for the first time in its species' history, the predator felt fear. Elara stepped closer, her boots echoing against the steel floor. Her eyes locked with the predator's. "You thought your roar would break me," she said softly, her voice carrying across the arena. "But humans, we've faced storms louder than you. We've stood in the thunder. We've laughed in the fire. We've lived where death walks beside us." She smirked one last time, and now, predator, it is you who trembles. The predator flinched. Its claws lowered, and then slowly it collapsed to its knees. The arena exploded in chaos. The predators had been broken. The humans still stood. The galaxy had witnessed the impossible, and as the crowd roared not in fear, but Elara lifted her chin and spoke 3 words that would echo across the stars. "Predators don't scare me." The silence that followed was not weakness, it was surrender. And for the first time in galactic history, the predators had lost. The predator was on its knees. Its claws scraped the steel floor, trembling, its golden eyes wide with disbelief. All around, the colossal arena had gone deathly quiet. Tens of thousands of aliens predators Warriors, leaders sat frozen. They had all seen the impossible. A human had stood against the roar. A human had not only endured, broken the predator without lifting a weapon. And now, Commander Elara Voss stood alone, her shadow stretching across the broken arena floor. Her expression was unreadable, but her smirk remained, sharp as a blade. That smirk carried more weight than any roar, because it said one thing the galaxy had never heard before. We are not prey. The predator tried to rise, but its body betrayed. Every muscle screamed with exhaustion. Every ounce of pride shattered. Its roar had failed. Its claws had missed. Its entire species' legacy of dominance lay in ruins at the feet of a single human. The audience waited for Elara to strike the killing blow. That was the way of the arena. That was the way of dominance. But Elara did not attack. She simply stepped forward and looked down at the predator. Her eyes, cold and steady, met its broken gaze. And then she turned away. Gasps filled the air in predator culture. To turn your back on an enemy was unthinkable, unforgivable. A predator never ignored prey. But Elara had, she had dismissed the predator as if it were nothing at all. And in that dismissal, the predator realized the truth. The human had won not just the fight, she had won the symbol. The silence shattered. Some aliens screamed in outrage. Others cheered wildly, throwing their voices into the storm of noise. Entire sections of the stands shook as different species shouted, argued, and fought amongst themselves. The human cheated. One alien bellowed. She faced the roar. She broke it. Another roared back. This changes everything. This means war. The galactic council chambers above filled with frantic movement. Leaders shouted orders, desperate to contain the chaos, but it was too late. The galaxy had witnessed something it could never unsee. A predator's roar had failed. A human's smirk had triumphed. Elara raised her voice, calm but sharp enough to cut through the noise. You brought me here to prove that humanity is prey, she said, her words echoing across the arena. You brought me here to show the galaxy our weakness, but instead, you showed them our strength. She glanced back at the predator, still kneeling, still trembling. You thought your roar would break us. But humanity has lived with storms. Louder than you, we've faced monsters worse than you. And we've never bowed, not once, not ever. The crowd quieted, listening. Elara's smirk returned, colder than ever. So if this is your strongest weapon, if this is what the galaxy fears, she leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. Then you'll have to try harder. The words spread, instantly carried across the arena, broadcast through the networks, replayed in every corner of galactic space. Billions of aliens who had never seen a human before now watched one smirk in the face of death and wind. On warships, terrors clenched their claws in rage. On trade stations, merchants whispered in fear. On border colonies, smaller species cheered, desperate for hope, and everywhere one question echoed, what are humans? In the council chambers, silence hung heavy. The oldest counselors, those who had ruled unchallenged for centuries, looked at each other with fear in their eyes. She should not have survived, one whispered. She should not have won, another muttered. If one human can do this, said a third, voice trembling, what happens when they all rise? For the first time in living memory, the council was afraid, not of predators, not of war, but of humanity in the arena below. The predator bowed its head. Slowly, painfully. It lowered its massive body until it lay flat on the steel floor. The gesture sent a shockwave through the crowd. Predators never bowed. Not to prey, not to anyone, but this one had, not because of fear, not because of weakness, but because it recognized something greater, something unstoppable. The human smirk, Elara stood tall, her figure illuminated by the harsh arena lights. She did not raise her fists. She did not shout her victory. Looked out at the sea of alien faces, some enraged, some awed, some terrified. Her smirk deepened, cold and sharp, and without a word. She turned and walked out of the arena. She had nothing left to prove, because in the silence that followed, the galaxy understood. The roar had failed, the predator had fallen, and humanity had risen. In the days that followed, whispers spread through every star system. Tales of the human who smirked at a predator's roar, stories of the prey who refused to bow. Legends of the species that had survived everything their own world had thrown at them and would now face the galaxy the same way. Commander Elara Voss became a symbol, not just for humanity, but for every species that had ever been crushed under the predator's dominance. Because if humans could stand against fear itself, then maybe others could too. And deep in the shadows of the galaxy, warlords, merchants, and rulers began to whisper the same terrifying words. The predators no longer rule. The humans are coming. And so, in the ruins of the arena, one truth burned brighter than all others. Predators roar, but humans smirk. And that smirk was the loudest sound the galaxy had ever heard.